anxiety. Okay. Look. You got me thinking if it was really worth it, putting in all of this effort just to end up less than perfect. But are our great defenses something used for our protection? Or are they just another way to force out imperfections? I guess I'm just effective, pointed in the wrong direction. The library in my head is one fucked up selection. Now children pay attention and you'll receive attention, cause after this I'll ask you an array of questions. Hey, hello. Welcome to the 40 Ounce Fridays podcast, episode 48. This is 48. I know for sure it is. I know. I'm getting on track with it. But anywho, hello guys. Welcome to the 40 Ounce Fridays podcast, episode 48. I'm your boy, HiK-Up. You know who it is. And, or maybe you don't know who it is. I'm not that popular. I'm not trying to brag. Anywho. Today, what are we talking about? We're talking about a couple of things. This should be another shorter one. I don't intend on this podcast for being too long. I don't. It might, but I don't think it'll be more than like an hour and a half. It'll be like, our old school usual length. We've been doing we've been doing a lot of longer podcasts lately, just due to like how much I felt like talking about the topic. But this one should be shorter, general stuff. I'm also recording this a little later in the day. Like I said, I usually record in the morning when I first get up on my days off. It is Wednesday, June 3rd, and it's 1:30. I'm recording this later because me and two friends, potential roommates, we looked at a place for viewing. It was nearby my house, but we hung out a little afterwards, got some food and stuff like that. But we really like the place, so we're filling out an application for that as we speak. So wish us luck. All things considered, we might end up with that place. The way they were talking, they seemed pretty like first come first serve kind of thing. But they also made it seem like no one had really applied yet. And that's why he said that. He's like, hop on it if you're trying to hop on it. So I will be filling out that application today after I'm done recording. But anywho, guys, we'll be going over the UU retrospective for the finale to the Four Saint Beast arc, our Maze Castle saga, as we get to the climax to Yusuke versus... Why did I forget his name for a split second? Yusuke versus Suzaku. Suzaku! As many times as I've been saying it throughout these last few weeks, you'd think I wouldn't forget the name. But we're doing that. We're going to talk about a little subject with how I feel about the black community in terms of like anime and manga standing up to certain things, and maybe a little something else. But we'll just go ahead and dive right into it. But first, there is one bit of quick news I wanted to cover. So I don't know if a lot of people have been keeping track of it just due to everything that's been going on recently, not just through America, but throughout the world. But we'll get to that later. But recently Game Freak dropped a Pokemon trailer. A trailer specifically for the upcoming expansion pass for expansion 1, Isle of Armor, and expansion 2, the Crown Tundra. Now, if you don't care about this, cool, perfectly fine. I'm addressing it just because it's important to gaming and whatnot, because Pokemon was a very big hot topic for a while leading up to the release of Sword and Shield, due to tons of controversy with the National Dex cut, reused model controversy, drama, deal situation, scandals, allegations, all of that, bad animations, yada. That's a big argument. We talked about that a lot over the course of the 7 months leading up to Sword and Shield's release. So I don't want to talk about it again too deeply until later. Maybe if something else big happens again, or after both expansions are released, then maybe I'll talk about Pokemon Sword and Shield as a whole, since we'll have been at that point, Pokemon Sword and Shield will have been out for a year. So then we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it then. But I also enjoy Sword and Shield. Like I said, I don't think it's the greatest game. In terms of my personal enjoyment, I love it. Looking at it objectively, it's alright. It's your standard Pokemon game. But I guess this is kind of a hot topic, or a hot take, that's the word. But honestly, I don't think any of the Pokemon games have ever been too hard or too deep. That's my personal opinion. You were young, so shit was more challenging. So people going around saying this game is too easy, bullshit. I know there's the whole thing with Wendy's Miltank in Gen 2. Go back and play that shit today as a grown-ass man. And not play it on a Nuzlocke. That's easy. You will slap Wendy in her fucking Miltank. It's not going to be hard. I'm telling you. And in terms of story, the best storyline Pokemon has ever had is Black and White. I don't care, don't at me. It really is. Black and White isn't even like my favorite set of games in the Pokemon series, but in terms of storyline, objectively, that had the deepest, most complex storyline of any Pokemon game, and it was still simple enough for everyone to understand, even, you know, children. And the other Pokemon game storylines have never been that deep. And while I'm not saying this to say, like, oh, see, Game Freak has always done it, and it's okay if they do it. No, they should strive to be better and make better storylines and whatnot, and gameplay and content. But I'm saying, why are you acting so surprised? And I know a lot of people are like, well, this was like the boiling point, like it all led up to that, and now they're dissatisfied. But a lot of people are also saying, like, Pokemon fell off after such and such or such and such. This has always been what Pokemon was. You're just older and expect more from them, because you expect more from life in general. I said I wasn't going to get too deep into it. I have a lot of things to say about Pokemon. But anywho, they released a new trailer for the expansions for both. So they showed content. It wasn't too big of a trailer. Like, if you're like a Pokatuber, you probably will have like videos up about, you know, analyzing the details of the trailer. It was like 3.5 minutes, which isn't a bad thing. I'm just personally not a Pokatuber, so I don't go as hard into details. I know Hoops and HiK-Upp, great YouTube channel, great Pokatuber, so check him out if you want to. He also does great ass Pokemon song remixes. I know he did a video analysis of it, but he does that for all the trailers, so that's cool and all that shit. But it's kind of like a montage of like what to expect from these two expansions. Like, they showed Galarian Slowbro, and I believe he's going to be Poison Psychic or something like that. He definitely looks like a Poison type. So there is that. He looked pretty cool. I like the little design changes for his Galarian variation. They showed some other stuff. They showed quick little snippets of Gigantamax Venusaur and Gigantamax Blastoise, which we already knew were coming from the initial announcement trailer. We saw little artwork designs for them. They showed the new Pokemon, what's his name, Kubfu, and then like the evolved forms like Urshifu or something like that. Both variations. Both of them have different Gigantamax forms, so they're not too different. It's just like their evolutions. They don't look too different design-wise. But just something to note, they do look like they have different Gigantamax variations as well. You'll be able to capture, you know, older Pokemon. Like, I think they added 200 Pokemon from previous generations that you can catch it through these expansions. Or if you have them in previous games, you can still trade them over via Pokemon Home. So if you have these older 200 Pokemon that are getting added through the expansion in previous games, you don't have to get the expansion, you could just trade them up. I believe that's what it is. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that that's what they're doing. That's what they said. But you can also do little events to catch Dynamax, like legendary raids and stuff like that, and they showed a bunch of legendaries from previous gens and quick little flashes. They even showed some clips from the Isle of Armor, where it looks like we'll be able to have the opportunity to catch the other Regis as well as the two new ones. Maybe you have to have the other Regis in order to get these two new ones, so maybe Regigigas will be involved as well. I did not see him in the trailer, but they did show, I believe they definitely showed Regice. I believe they also showed Registeel and Regirock as well. So they might be involved in catching these two new Regi forms. They showed a snippet of like this giant tree, and what I noticed, this was mainly for Crown Tundra, when they were showing trailer snippets of that. You could always see this big-ass tree in the background. And I don't know the importance or the significance of the tree, but it looks like it'll have some kind of involvement in, like, if Crown Tundra has a storyline, maybe it'll involve something with the storyline. If Crown Tundra doesn't have a storyline and you just go out and explore, maybe it'll have something to do with the lore of the Galarian region and the Pokemon world itself. And, of course, they showed that Royal Rabbit-looking legendary Pokemon, I forget its name. They showed little snippets of that as well. And the Galarian forms of the legendary birds, and they were all by this gigantic tree. But I noticed almost wherever you were on the map, on the Crown Tundra portion, from what they were showing, almost anywhere they were on the world map when they were just showing the snippets for like that wild area portion, you could always see that tree somewhere far off. Maybe when you're far, far away enough, you won't see it, but it's big. It's clearly showing, distincting that it's a big-ass tree. And so this big-ass tree has something to do with some kind of lore regarding the Crown Tundra. But that's all we kind of got from it. If you want like a deeper analysis, I'd say go on YouTube. Like I said, look up Hoops and HiK-Upp's video. He does a detailed analysis. I believe it's like a 17-minute video breaking down everything, you know, slow, frame by frame, so you can get like the full picture of what to expect. But it looks cool, and we got an announcement date for Isle of Armor. It comes out June 17th. So that's not too far away. That's like a couple of weeks away. So I went ahead and purchased the expansion pass. I didn't purchase the expansion pass yet just because I was like, I'll wait until like we get an announcement date of around when it's going to come out, and then when it gets close, I'll just drop the $30 on it. But I was like, oh, June 17th? That's a few weeks away. So I went ahead and purchased it. Call me a shill if you want. I enjoy Pokemon. I had fun playing Sword and Shield. I believe it was worth the $60 in my personal opinion. And it looks like the expansions will be worth the $30 in my personal opinion. If you disagree with me, that is perfectly okay. Do not come at me like you fucking shill, you sheep, you're what's wrong with the Pokemon like, shut the fuck up. Come on now. Oh, so they're giving us the rest of the game now. No, this was clearly planned after the game. Calm the fuck down. If you really feel that passionate about it, don't get it. I'm just letting you guys know, Crown Tundra, or Isle of Armor coming out June 17th. So that is it for quick news. And then one other note for HiK-Upp Recommends, I'm still going to be doing that stuff. I'm going to try to do it more often once I get settled in, when I move, whenever, or when Season 3 starts, whichever comes first. Maybe both will happen around the same time. But what I want to do is recommend more stuff that I personally have not watched yet, so as a first-time viewer. Like last week when I said, oh, I finally watched The Night is Short, Walk On Girl. That was my first time watching it, so then I recommended it, even though it was my first time. Because I fully recommend it, and I still recommend it. It's a great movie. I'm going to give it a second watch when I have the time to sit down and watch it, because it was subbed. But I want to do more stuff like that, where I kind of have like these fresh like viewings of, maybe it's an animated film, or a show, or like my first take on like a game that you don't necessarily have to put like a bunch of hours into, like maybe like a fighter, or just some kind of fun party game, shit like that, and just recommend stuff like that, as well as stuff I've already been well accustomed to and enjoyed for years, or had back in the day, just to freshen things up for HiK-Upp Recommend. So I'll be recommending stuff I personally like stand by, that I really love throughout the years, and also new things that have caught my attention that I want to recommend for you guys too to catch on the horizon. So if you have any recommendations for anime films for me to watch, please let me know. I have actually not seen a lot of anime films, besides like films that are like made promotional for like shows, you know, like Dragon Ball Z movies or Naruto movies, Bleach movies, stuff like that. I'm talking about like original anime films. I haven't seen a lot. Like off the top of my head, like my favorite ones are like Summer Wars. I've seen that. I love Summer Wars. Kiki's Delivery Service, hands down my favorite Studio Ghibli movie. Maybe that's an unpopular opinion, but I fucking love Kiki's Delivery Service. So there's that. I love that movie. I've seen, a couple of other Studio Ghibli films. I haven't seen them in a while though. Night is Short, Walk On Girl, Your Name. I saw Your Name in theaters. That was a great fucking movie. So, I've seen stuff like that, so if you want to recommend anything on that sort of level that I haven't named, I probably haven't seen it, so recommend it, and when I have the time to find it and watch it somewhere, I'll go ahead and do that. But thank you guys. So there's that. So we're going to go ahead and move on into the UU Retrospective. So we are on episode 21. Yeah. So episode 21 of Yu Yu Hakusho is Yusuke's Sacrifice. This is the finale to the Force Beast-Arc and the climax of the fight between Yusuke and Suzaku. When we last left off, Suzaku had Yusuke being fucking tortured by his clones as he had HiK-Upp. A plane is really flying over right now. Wow, how are you gonna do me like that? Okay, I don't know if you guys can still hear it or not. It sounds like it's far away, but it's loud enough for me to hear. I don't know if it's going to pick up on the mic, but I apologize. I tried to, pause, let it pass, but I still kind of faintly hear it. We're going to keep going. So Yusuke was getting electrocuted. He's getting tortured as Keiko and Botan were fighting for their lives on the big-ass TV screen in the background. And like I said, we recapped, got the flashback of Genkai training Yusuke and telling Yusuke, telling Yusuke he doesn't put his all into anything because he's scared it won't work out. He wants everything to come to him easy. He wants to catch things through luck, all that kind of jazz, And Yusuke was fighting against that, but in the end, Genkai was right. He's never put his all into something. So, why was he fighting? Why was he here? Because they needed him. Keiko, Kurama, Hiei, Kuwabara, the people that have been fighting right alongside him, backing up his cause. Shit like that. His mom, he came back for them because they wanted him back. So he kind of gets this newfound resolve and this extra boon and strength as he breaks off from the Suzaku's holding him down. So 2 of them are laid out on the floor. So then we got the 4 other clones and the main Suzaku himself holding onto the whistle. And Yusuke's rejuvenated, and there's this shot of him standing tall, fists ready to throw down. He's ready to fight, and the Suzakus are yo, what the fuck? So Suzaku's look, man, I don't care if you got a power up or not, you still about to lose. So the 5 remaining Suzakus jump up, and they're getting ready to do another Prism Storm of Torment, where they all shoot their electric arrows. But as he's charging up his juice, it's not quite coming together as he wanted, and that's because he, without realizing it, drained a little too much of his energy, so he can't form these arrows. So he's just alright, fuck it, I guess we'll have to, figure out something else. But before he can, Yusuke's just oh look, you don't have enough energy? I got enough to serve 7, which I thought was a weird line, because I know there's 7 Suzakus, but 2 of them are already down. So you're only attacking 5 of them, bro. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure those 2 that fell on the ground after Yusuke got his little power amp stayed on the ground. They were done. But it's a nitpick. Don't worry about it. So Yusuke fires off a shotgun, and yes, the rare viewing of the shotgun, my friends. Soak it in, because after season 1, we never see it again until season 3. So he fires it off, hits all 5 of them at the same time. They all go flying. The main Suzaku fucking makes an imprint crackle on the wall, falls down, drops the whistle. Yusuke's woo! So, he did his thing, and he's see, I had enough to hit all of you. But that was all the energy he had left. So while he did get an amp in power and this new kind of just this second wind, that's the word. He got his second wind in because, he's fighting for something. He's putting his all into something for the first time. He still that didn't give him a lot of energy. At the end of the day, he may have felt he may have gotten more powerful through that feeling of fighting to protect something, but it looked like his energy reserves were drained. So he falls to the ground, and now he's slowly crawling for the whistle. Trying to reach it, trying to make it in time. Meanwhile, Botan and Keiko are still running for their lives. And excuse me if I'm telling these things out of sequence, not quite in the order of the episode. I mainly want to focus on Yusuke and Suzaku, because that's the main focus of the fight, so I want to get back to that as soon as possible, so I'm just going to name off what everyone else is doing, because they're very one-off things. So Keiko and Botan are running for their lives. They hit the corner, and out from the corner, Botan gets popped in the head with a pipe. And I don't want to laugh, but I was God damn. He just right on her forehead, just popped her. So she goes down. And Keiko's holding her. So that's the situation they're left in. That's, the last we see of him. And it's just oh shit. So they're in a bad situation. Kuwabara, Hiei, and Kurama are still fighting their way through the cultivated humans, trying to reach the top of the tower to help Yusuke. So they're busting through them all. they don't seem like they're injured by them at all. They're just kind of, you know, a hindrance. Kuwabara does look a little tired, though, because, you know, it's Kuwabara. And he's like, fuck, dude, we're going to be too tired to help Urameshi by the time we get up there. But they're just like, look, dude, us being there, being tired is better than us not being there at all. And he is just like, look, do whatever you feel like, I'm still going. So he and Kurama are blitzing through these niggas trying to keep going. Kuwabara's a little further behind. He's taking down these cultivated humans one by one as well. And he's just like, hey, wait up. So that's where they leave off. And then we have George and Koenma still watching the fight between Yusuke and Suzaku. George is talking about how impressed he is with Yusuke because of this scene here. So Yusuke is crawling for the whistle, and he's nearly gotten there. And then Suzaku's little bird assistant, Meguru, shows up and stands in the way of him and the whistle. She's like, I won't let you get to the whistle. And Yusuke's like, alright, that's cool. I am kind of hungry, kind of want some chicken. And he points his fingers at her like he's about to fire off a spirit gun. So Meguru is like, bullshit, you said you didn't have any more energy. And Yusuke's like, yeah, I didn't have enough energy for Suzaku. I got enough energy to fry a smart-ass bird. So now Meguru is sweating. She's just like, oh shit, this nigga will really shoot me. So Yusuke's slowly limping closer and closer to her, like dragging himself across the floor. And George was saying he was impressed. If you don't know who George is, that's the name of the ogre. The blue ogre that's directly like Koenma's assistant. I think his full name is George Satomi or something like that. But R.I.P. to his English voice actor. He passed away. But George is like, wow, Yusuke back in the day, like, you know, like 6 months ago, would have burned out all his spirit energy in one shot and then had nothing left to do anything. But look at that, he had enough energy left to, you know, still have some power to do something. And Koenma's like, that's not what happened. Koenma's like, Yusuke did burn all his spirit energy out on that last shotgun. He's bluffing. It was a high stakes bluff. But I love that because it's totally Yusuke. Yusuke is the dude to like just blow off all his energy in that final attack, and then when like it doesn't quite go fully as planned, just start bluffing. But the bluff was working. Meguru was scared. She didn't know if Yusuke had energy or not. And it is kind of believable to think that Yusuke would have enough energy to kill her since she's such a lower level demon, and not enough to kill Suzaku. So that's what he meant when he had no power left. So Meguru is scared, so she flies away. She's like, okay, fuck that. I'll back up. So it looks like it was successful. Yusuke goes, he reaches for the whistle, finally end things, get this shit done, and bow! Who steps on my man's head? Suzaku. Just stomps on it. It's not even just like kicking his hand out of the way, just crushes it with his foot, and Yusuke's like, ah, fuck! And he then kicks Yusuke out of the way and picks up the whistle. So Suzaku looks injured, you know, he's bleeding from his lip a little bit. But, and this is the main Suzaku, all the clones are down still. And he's just like, good job, Meguru, thanks for stalling. And she was like, oh, yeah, he was bluffing. And Suzaku was like, of course he was bluffing, because if he did have enough energy to shoot you, he would have just shot the whistle at the end of the day. The goal is to destroy the whistle, not to just capture it. So if he had enough energy to do that, he would have already done it. He wouldn't have needed to threaten you. And I was like, ooh, damn. So Suzaku's a little smarter than Yusuke is clever at the moment. So Yusuke's struggling to get back up, and he's like, look, bro, I may be out of energy, but you're also out of energy. So it's kind of similar to the Rando versus Yusuke situation in the previous arc, where they are both out of spirit energy, but then Rando attempts to chant to shrink Yusuke down, but luckily for Yusuke, very fucking luckily, he had the swamp algae in his ears, so the spell backfired on Rando. That's not going to happen this time around. He's more placed in a situation where Suzaku's not a fool. He knows his techniques better than anyone else, because they're his own techniques that he's mastered, not techniques that he's stolen. So Suzaku's like, oh, you thought shit was sweet out here, huh? So Suzaku raises his hand, and all the dead clones, all the dead Suzaku clones that are down, start turning into energy and going back to Suzaku. Suzaku is literally taking the leftover energy from the downed clones and bringing them back to himself, thus restoring him of all the damage he had taken. Well, almost all the damage. We'll get to that. So Suzaku looks completely healed. And Yusuke is not okay with this. And Suzaku's like, oh, it ain't over yet, though. If you thought that was scary, watch this shit. And he redoes the Prism of 7. So he just absorbs the energy from the dead clones, heals himself so he has all his energy back, and then reforms the clones. And they're all fully healed as well, too. So this is the final technique, and what I would say is Suzaku's ultimate technique, which is fitting of someone who's supposed to be based off the Phoenix, Prism Storm of 7 Restoration, or Prism of 7 Restoration. So he literally rose from his ashes and revived. I was like, this nigga is what? So if you never caught that before, that's the reference to the Phoenix that we see from Suzaku, which is why in terms of like visual appeal, Genbu, Byaku, and even Seiryu, because you know, Ice Dragon, the blue dragon design on his clothing, they're more of a stronger visuals representing their Saint Beast than Suzaku's. But Suzaku has more like a technique-based, power-based inspiration and other inspirations, like Meguru being a bird, so it's kind of representing the Phoenix. The Prisms of 7 Restoration technique, so he's reviving from his own ashes. So pretty much the only way to truly kill Suzaku is to kill all 7 clones at the same time. If one of them remains, they just absorb the dead ones, restore their energy, and then split again. So, but the problem is, Yusuke has no energy left. So he doesn't have enough power to throw out another shot. So now it's looking real grim for Yusuke, as the 7 clones charge up and fire another Prism Storm of Torment. This time, Yusuke, all he can do is block. So he tries to go for the block, and it forces him back, knocks him all over. He gets a big electric shock, and he stumbles. The problem with this is, it also doesn't look like the Prism Storm of Torment did full damage. It really doesn't. And Suzaku immediately notes this. He's like, huh, that's weird. It seems like they were off a little bit. And that's when he notices one of his antenna is like cracked. Then we get the flashback to the first part of the fight, way back on episode 19. When Yusuke fired that spirit gun and Suzaku mollywopped that shit out of the way, he didn't quite deflect it fully, and part of that energy managed to graze one of his antennae. And he didn't seem to notice because I guess it wasn't severe enough damage. But the problem with this for Suzaku is these antennae were dipped in thick armor because they needed to be protected. They are used kind of as like guiding lightning rods for his electricity. So when he absorbs electricity with his spirit or his demon energy to fire it out as his attack, like the Storm of Torment, the Prism Storm of Torment, etc., they kind of help conduct and guide where he aims. So with one of them damaged, he's never fully on target. So Suzaku's like, this whole fucking time, I've been halfway missing him. That's why he hasn't been able to finish Yusuke off, and Yusuke's been able to take the advantage. Now, granted, this is kind of lucky that Yusuke's spirit gun shot did graze Suzaku, but had Suzaku just not underestimated Yusuke from the start and tried to go all out to finish him off as quickly as possible, he just might have gotten the job done. It's because he slowly built up to using his more advanced powers because Yusuke was kind of like showing he was stronger than what he appeared. So through Suzaku underestimating him and Yusuke's natural sense of being clever and natural attribute of affinity for luck, Suzaku this whole time has been missing with these direct shots. Which is terrifying because every time Yusuke's been hit by one of these attacks, it looked hella fucking painful. And you're telling us the whole time he's never quite been able to hit directly the entire time. Also, granted, Yusuke has been partially dodging stuff too, but even still, imagine if Suzaku's antennas weren't damaged. What if he had just gotten a direct hit off the jump and just killed Yusuke? So, Suzaku's like, yo, what the fuck? So he's like, you know what? That's okay. That's okay. There's 7 of us and there's 1 of you. So he raises his hands. All the clones raise their hands and they start gathering up the lightning falling from the sky. And they're just like, look, if I can't get a direct hit on you, then I'm just going to have to rip you apart piece by piece with these attacks over time. So Yusuke is trying to think of a way out of this, because even though the attacks aren't fully hitting, he can't take much more of being electrocuted, because it's killing him. Like, you can tell, like, he's battered and beaten. He can barely stand. He had his second win and it's still not over, and he took another hit. So he's struggling to think of something, and Suzaku's getting ready to finish him off. Keiko and Botan are still in a very desperate situation with Botan knocked out and Keiko surrounded by these fucking infected people. Koenma and George can't do a goddamn thing but watch, and Kuwabara, Hiei, and Kurama are still trying to head up to the top of the castle. The castle is crumbling under, like, all the shockwaves and energy being charged up by Suzaku and Yusuke up top. So the stairway breaks. So they're trying to make their way up. Hiei yeets his sword to, like, the broken half of the stairway above, and Kurama slings his rosewhip to wrap it around so they can swing and climb their way up. So they're still on their way. They're still trying to get there as fast as they can. But will they make it in time? So as they're trying to make their way up there, Suzaku's giving pretty much his bidding final words to Yusuke. He's like, look, man, whatever the fuck you are, you're definitely not human. Foreshadowing. Oh, this is what I wanted to mention. I didn't mention this last week either, and I should have. I don't think Togashi at all planned for Yusuke to have this demon ancestry until, like, maybe, like, a couple of chapters before it happens in the manga. Maybe he planned it at the start of Chapter Black. Maybe he planned... I think at some point in Chapter Black, he planned for that to happen. And then he just set it up so that it could. But I don't think he planned super far back, like from the start. But this is kind of cool from a narrative standpoint in hindsight when you think about what happens in Yu Yu Hakusho, especially if you've already watched it. You know that in Chapter Black we find out Yusuke has a demon ancestry that dates far, far back to one of the 3 kings, that being the battle god Toshin Raizen. The reason why I didn't activate the first time he died and was revived is because he didn't have access to spirit energy the first time he died. So his body was completely fucking weak. It would not be able to handle the energy that could be gifted from him from his ancestors. But over the course of fights like this one, the Dark Tournament fights, and his struggle with Sensui before eventually dying again, he had enough energy and enough strength for that side of him to awaken. Now, the cool part about this is, in hindsight, this does not contradict anything about Yusuke's origins at all. Nothing I can think of. You could call it a retcon if you want. I wouldn't call it an ass pull. I wouldn't even call it a retcon, because it's not really retconning anything. It's not like information is being contradicted or changed as a matter of fact. I guess you can call it a retcon technically, because we always assumed Yusuke was just 100% human. But even then, I really wouldn't call it a retcon or an ass pull. I think it just took advantage of a good writing situation, because nothing really contradicts the fact that Yusuke could be half demon in any events prior to that happening. And this just kind of enforces the idea that Yusuke's always kind of been hinted as being part demon, even though I don't think Togashi planned it. In the previous episode where Suzaku has him held up by 2 of his clones, and he's like, look, dude, just forfeit, man. Just give up. You can join me. You can help me. I'll make you a demon king and have your own army. And in my head, I'm just like, foreshadowing. like I was like, did you not hear that? Foreshadowing. Fucking foreshadow. And this just enforces it, because Suzaku's just like, look, dude, you can't be all human. You have to be something else too. And I'm just like, yo, is this hinting that he's a like I said, I don't think Togashi planned it, but it fits so well with the narrative for future events that I love the idea of that. And also it kind of fits Yusuke's character journey on another layer, because if you think about it, Yusuke essentially is the person that kind of bridges the gap between demons and humans in Yu Yu Hakusho. Because especially if you've read the manga, you find out that Spirit World is high-key fucking shady, and King Yemma is high-key fucking shady, and he's done a lot of things that he shouldn't have been doing that made the demons look worse off than they were. Not all of them were like these super terrible beings. So when the Makai, the tunnel to the Makai remains open, slowly over time, demons and humans start coexisting towards the end of Yu Yu Hakusho. It's a slow process. It's like still in its early stages, but it's happening. But that wouldn't have happened had it not been for Yusuke. You got to think about events like this, how like things like that have influenced him too. Like with Toguro chose to become a demon. He chose to become a monster because that's the path he chose to go down. And even though he was the enemy and all the shit that happened between him, Genkai, you know, all of that went down, Yusuke, in some twisted, distorted sense, up until, you know, the point where Genkai died, Yusuke said he looked up to Toguro in a way. Like, he wanted to be like him in some sort of sense. So there's that. There's the idea of Sensui, who was 100% human, but hated humanity for what they had done and over the course of history with the Chapter Black tapes. And of course, seeing what the Black Club had been doing behind closed doors. It was fucking disgusting, and it broke his mind. So he was like, demons just deserve to take over. And then that leads us into the Three Kings arc with Yomi, who's 100% demon, and doesn't give a fuck about humans. He's like, dude, why should we stop eating humans? Fuck them. I'll eat humans if I feel like it. And Yusuke comes in, shows up out of nowhere, and shoves kind of like this ideology on Yomi, and it gives Yomi a sense of pride, and he kind of changes his mind to an extent, and to a degree, and it brings back his warrior's pride. He had been a king so long, he kind of lost that. So Yusuke kind of inspires and changes a lot of people through his own just sense of being himself. He's not trying to force a change on you. The change just comes because he is who he is. And I thought that was a cool little aspect to point out. Like, that went way deeper than it needed to be, because I do not think Togashi planned that. I don't think Suzaku saying, I don't know what you are, but I don't think you're human. You can't be human. You're like not all, like all of that. I think that was because Suzaku was scared of exactly what Yusuke was. Like, or not exactly what he was. He was scared that Yusuke was so strong, even though he was a human. It was unfathomable to think that a human could be that powerful. And the funny part is, this is before Yusuke's demon powers awaken, so you can't even attribute that to Yusuke's successes prior to that, because before that, that's all him. That's all his training, that's all spirit energy, that's all his talent, that's all his skill. It's just funny that that was said. Maybe Togashi thought about it and it was like, yeah, you know what, I could play this into the story at a later date, like he implemented that into his storyline, but I don't think he planned it beforehand. But anyhow, so that's gonna happen, and it looks like things are finished. Yusuke can't do anything, and he's just like, fuck, dude. I'm supposed to be protecting them. I'm supposed to be fighting for them. What's going to happen now? So it goes to the monitor, and it shows Keiko about to get stabbed by a dude with a pair of scissors, and she screams out, like, Yusuke. She, like, screams out for him to help. And he hears that over the monitor, and he's like, you know what? Fucking screw this. So Yusuke's eyes start glowing, and over back where Keiko is, like, this staticky kind of blue spirit energy, like, jumps and kind of shocks the dude with the scissors in his hand, and he drops them, and it looks like it's protecting Keiko. So it looks like Yusuke was able to use his life force to go over and shield Keiko. I don't know how he did it, but he did it. So that happens, and Suzaku's like, yo, wait, what the fuck is going on? So Yusuke gets up, he's glowing with energy, and Suzaku's like, this nigga is using his life energy to keep fighting. So, life energy and spirit energy are clearly two different things, because they distincted as such. Yusuke didn't have any spirit energy left to fight, so he's going to use his own life force to power himself for one final go. So Suzaku's like, oh, so you're going to try to give away your life to stop me. You're not stopping me. So he fires off a Prism Storm of Torment, so as his final attack. Yusuke raises his hands and he's blocking them, and he's like taking a few shots from these arrows directly, and he's just eating them. Like, you can see them kind of hit him and kind of like bounce off. He's just like, man, fuck all that, and he's just like shrugging them off. and he fires off a shotgun powered by his own life force. And one of the blasts clashes with the last arrow from the Prism Storm of Torment. So they're clashing, all this energy's going around, a lot of fucking lights. It's kind of similar to the Spirit Gun clash between him and Rando, except on a way larger scale, because the whole room is glowing. Kurama, Hiei, and Kuwabara get to the room right at that last second to see the clash going on between them. Everything glows in a big flash of light, and Yusuke succeeds. His shotgun powers through everything, kills all 7 Suzakus, kills Maguru's annoying ass as she calls out for Suzaku before she's eviscerated. So, 2 W's. I'm going to count that. In fact, I'm going to count this as 9 W's, because Yusuke took out 7 Suzakus, Maguru's annoying ass, and the Makai whistle in that last shot. And blew up the fucking main chamber of the castle's peak at the top of the castle. That whole room crumbled. So the whistle's destroyed. People are, of course, not possessed anymore. And in the rubble, we see Yusuke passed out, collapsed. And it looks like he might be dead. Suzaku's still kind of alive, just, like, limping. I don't remember if they said Suzaku died or if he was taken into custody. Because I know Goki didn't die. They arrested Goki. And Rando. Rando didn't die either. They arrested Rando. But I think Suzaku died. I'm pretty sure he died at that point. But he's just like, oh, I see now. You weren't stronger than me because you weren't a human. I lost because you were. Touche. Like, Suzaku's trying to give, like, this final poetic thing before he dies. And I'm just like, Suzaku, shut the fuck up. Just, like, it's not that deep, bro. I like Suzaku's character, and he doesn't need to be as deep as he was. His whole motivation was he thought humanity was stupid. He's like, why should demons and apparitions and shit have to live in the shadows while humans get to live in the world of the living? Fuck all that. You guys suck. We're far superior to you. It was just like, he's like, we're better than you, so why should we be the ones living in the shadows? That was Suzaku's whole motivation. He just wanted to be out in the living world and take over and run shit. He didn't need to be any deeper than that. So that final speech kind of comes off as a little corny to me. But since, like, it's not that long of a speech, it's like 2 sentences and then he dies, I was like, you know what, it's cool, go ahead and say that. You're like, oh, a human beat me, I never thought. And he beat me because he was a human. Oh, you bastard. So Suzaku's defeated. Kuwabara, Hiei, and Kurama run over to Yusuke, and they're just like, fuck. And Kuwabara's like, wake up, Urameshi, get up. And Kurama's just like, I don't know, man. It looks like he used his life energy for that last attack. So he might die soon. Like, he doesn't have enough to keep him alive. So Kuwabara's like, then I'll give him some of my own to keep him alive. Kuwabara is the best. How are you niggas hating on my man? I don't mean to keep just being a stand for Kuwabara, but come the fuck on now, bro. Yusuke was gonna die, and Kuwabara was like, fuck that. I'll give him some of my own life force so that he can live. And Kurama was like, I don't know if you should do all that. You might fuck up and kill yourself too. And Kuwabara's like, Urameshi and I got in this mess together, and we're either coming out of it together or we're not coming out at all. I was like, this nigga is a ride or die. How are you hating on my man? Kuwabara is the greatest best friend in all of anime history. He was like, dude, I'll die. Fuck it. We either both die or we both live. That's how it is. This is just great. Kuwabara is the ultimate, bro. So he does that, and he is like, I don't get it. If he did all, because you know, at the end of the day, Yusuke sacrificed his life force to save Keiko. He did it for Keiko. He was fighting to protect her and everyone else, but it was mainly Keiko. So he is like, what's the point of protecting her if you're just going to die and not be there? And Kurama's like, look, bro, you may not get it, but there are some things people would bet their lives on to protect. And that's Kurama's referencing back during, like, that first case Yusuke had where Kurama was going to give his life to the Forlorn Hope to save his mom. And Yusuke, you know, stopped him, and in the end he helped him solve the problem without any life being taken. But Kurama understands where Yusuke is coming from, essentially, is what he's saying. And this is kind of like one of the first major events where Yusuke is fighting for something other than himself. He came back for the sake of other people. He came back to life. He decided to go through that ordeal for his mom, for Keiko, for Kuwabara, you know. But he still was kind of like that type of person to not want to go through the struggle. He didn't want to do the fight. He didn't want to go on the mission. He didn't want to do such and such and such and such unless it was going to come easy to him. And when it didn't come easy to him, he wanted to quit. He did not want to be there at Genkai's tournament at all. And the only reason why he kept fighting Rando so fiercely was because he saw what he did to Kuwabara. So again, he was fighting in a sense of protection. So Yusuke's fighting all these cases for the sake of others, which is going to form a part of Yusuke's character going into the Dark Tournament. Because we got one more arc after this, but this arc is meant to just more so set up the Toguro brothers and the Black Club and Sakio and what's to come in the Dark Tournament. It's a good arc, but still, that's what it's for. But the Dark Tournament is a lot of Yusuke's background and character development for that arc ties in not only to Genkai and Togoro's character arcs because they share a past together, but Yusuke's tied to that too because Genkai is Yusuke's teacher and Toguro is Yusuke's like goal to defeat. He wants Yusuke to become a rival to him and someone that can beat him. And he doesn't know he's being trained by Genkai until, you know, later on during the Dark Tournament. That's where we learn they all have a past together. So it's kind of like the strings of fate have bound for that to happen. Like, it was supposed to go down like that. So that forms into his character of, you know, the idea of fighting to protect and how he kind of keeps his emotions behind this wall and he needs to get past that to power up. Whereas in Chapter Black, it's a battle of morality where he's like, you know what, fuck it, I'm doing this for me. And then the Three Kings arc, he's searching for a meaning that he's never really had in life. He's been fighting to protect, but what does he want, you know? So it shows his stages of growth as a person as he gets older. But he's still young, so, you know, he's fighting to protect others. He's not really thinking on it for the sake of himself. It's for the sake of other people. So after that, Kuwabara manages to keep Yusuke alive. He passes out too. And we cut back to the world of the living after that. It's been a little while later. Yusuke wakes up at Kuwabara's house. He's like, yo, what happened? So, you know, like, everything got solved. You destroyed the whistle. You stopped Suzaku. No more demon bugs. Everything's all good in the hood. So Yusuke's like, oh, cool. Is Keiko okay? And Kuwabara and Kurama are just kind of like, oof. Like, they kind of look away. And things kind of get a little tense. There's like no music playing. And Yusuke's like, hey, why are you guys so quiet? Are Keiko and Botan okay? And they're still quiet, and Kuwabara kind of looks down, and Grimm's just like, fuck. And Yusuke gets up, he's like, hey, asshole, don't just look away from me like that. Where are Keiko and Botan? And he's like, screaming at him now. And Keiko and Botan walk in. And Botan's like, oh, I thought you were talking. And then Kuwabara breaks out in laughter. Essentially, it was a joke. He was playing a joke on Yusuke, and Kurama was just like, look, dude, Kuwabara insisted, so I'm sorry. Which, you know what? I'm just thinking of this, but they pretty much do that again during the Dark Tournament where Kuwabara, like, nearly dies, and Yusuke gets that big power boost, and then afterwards, Kuwabara's like, damn, bro, you was really feeling me, bro. We was boys. I'm touched. And Kurama was laughing. Like they were in on the joke again. So I'm glad they kind of keep that reoccurring, like their sense of humor going. So everything turned out fine in the end, and Yusuke's embarrassed and he gets all mad at Kuwabara. So at the end of the episode, Yusuke and Keiko are walking home, and Keiko's like, Botan told me what's going on. Look, dude, if you're going on these cases, you have to tell me. You have to tell me what's going on. I don't want to be worried about you. Because she cares. And of course, Yusuke cares about her, as we saw. So to the dude again who said Yusuke never showed that he cared about Keiko, go fuck yourself. But I digress. They're talking, and Yusuke's like, look, Keiko, I'm sorry. I was doing it to protect you. You know, he's being the whole boyfriend apologizing thing. We've all been there. And she's like, mm-hmm. And look how that turned out. I was like, God damn, this is real life. Sorry, I was a little parched. But they're still walking. He's still trying to apologize. And Keiko's like, Yusuke, you still didn't promise yet. And Yusuke didn't say nothing. And she's like, Yusuke, and the episode kind of goes off. So I'm just like, nigga, I ship them, and that's the best ship. Don't hate on the ships, bro. I hate shippers. I don't know where I'm going with all of that, but that ends the episode. So, and thus concludes the Four Saint Beast arc. The Four Saint Beast arc is a slap of an arc. It is truly the first major case we see in Yu Yu Hakusho. It's the first major arc. The Rando arc was serious, definitely. I do agree, but it was more so made for setup. To give Kuwabara, his spirit sword, so he has his powers, and set him up for future events to come. To set up Genkai as Yusuke's teacher for what's to come, etc., etc. It was made as setup for the true tests that are ahead, which this was truly like, the Four Saint Beast was like, this was a case. This was like an event. It was 8 episodes long. So this is so far the longest arc in Yu Yu Hakusho. So far. This arc is short as hell compared to the Dark Tournament and Chapter Black. Dark Tournament, I believe, is the longest arc in the series. And followed by Chapter Black. And I think even Three Kings is a couple of episodes longer. I think Three Kings is like 12 to 15. It's something like that. It's shorter still, but it's still longer than this arc. But even still, it was a great first big case. And another significant thing, it was the first time we see Yusuke, Kuwabara, Hiei, and Kurama all together working together on a mission together. All together working together on a mission together. Why did I say that? But it's the first time we see them working together in one central thing. Whereas we saw in the three dark items, Kuwabara had little to no involvement. Kuwabara had no involvement in that arc. He played a part in the Yusuke ordeal thing when Yusuke was trying to get his life back. He helped out with that. And then we don't really see him again until the Genkai tournament. And then we're introduced to Kurama and Hiei. And then the Genkai tournament happens. And then we don't see Kurama and Hiei. But then it sets Kuwabara's character up to have powers to be a part of the team. Thus, we get to the Four Saint Beast arc with all 4 of them. So, squad goals. The boys, they was killing it, bro. They was finessing niggas. The color schemes is dope. Yusuke in the green, Kuwabara in the blue. He got the black. Kurama got, there's the team aesthetic, the team dynamic, the personalities, the varied skill sets. It was a big-ass D&D campaign. That's what Maze Castle was, and I loved every minute of it. It's a great arc, and I think it does go very much underappreciated. Even for me, I think I underappreciated the Four Saint Beast arc for a while. I'm not saying it wasn't until this time when I watched it that I started to appreciate it. It was probably a few years back where I was just like, this arc is a lot better than people give it credit for. It's a good arc. The fights are exciting and dynamic, and they're all very different. It's not the same thing over and over again. The stakes were high. It was cool. The enemies were cool. They had unique abilities. It was a dope-ass arc. It was fun. It was fun. So, next week, we will be diving into episode 22 of Yu Yu Hakusho. I believe it's called Lamenting Beauty. Lamenting Beauty. And this is the start of the Yukina Rescue arc, aka the Tarukane's Stronghold arc, whatever you want to call it. I believe it's only 4 episodes long, so we won't be going over it as much as we did this arc. I think this arc we went over for 7 weeks, though, not 8. Yeah, because the first time we went over Maze Castle, I did 2 episodes in one podcast. But, so we have that to look forward to. And then we'll start moving into the events that lead into the Dark Tournament. But these events also do. And this is what I'm saying. This is a shorter arc, a shorter case. But it doesn't involve all 4 of them majorly. Like, Kurama, Hiei has a big stake in this, being that Yukina is his sister. But he's not really heavily involved in the arc until the end, and Kurama's just kind of in the background. This is like a Yusuke Kuwabara buddy cop kind of arc. And I really like this arc. Because Yusuke and Kuwabara have such a strong dynamic, one thing I wish Yu Yu Hakusho did have was, I wish it was longer. Just maybe at least in the earlier parts, maybe have a few more cases. Just a few more cases with Yusuke and Kuwabara just alone tag teaming on a case. Because I feel like those are the most fun. The higher stakes stuff happens in the Dark Tournament in Chapter Black and in Three Kings. But when it's like Yusuke and Kuwabara just together, their dynamic is perfect. So them going back and forth, insulting each other, playing jokes, and then like when a fight goes down and they're just so in fucking sync on like, yeah, whoop this nigga ass, bro. like this arc is just straight finessing. Until like they fight the Toguro brothers, Yusuke and Kuwabara essentially flex for 3 fucking episodes. This is the arc where they just big flex 3 episodes. They're just blowing through any sort of obstacle in their way. I was gonna say challenge, but I'm like, there is no challenge. Like the scene, like since we're talking about it on podcast, I don't mind like saying it now, because we're not gonna visualize it. But the scene, I forget what episode it is. It might be like episode 22. If not, it's probably episode 23, where they're storming, or maybe even 24. I don't remember. But it's in this arc where they're storming the building, like Tarukane's like stronghold, his big ass mansion, and there's a bunch of mines, and you see all these explosions, like shit just blows up, and then out from the smoke and fire, Yusuke and Kuwabara just step out, like not even running, not even looking phased or scathed, just dead ass serious. And then they start charging up their spirit energy, and it forms this big ass dome around them. And I was like, this is one of the biggest flexes in anime history. They give no fucks about what you set up in front of them. And it's like, yeah, you can see why the Toguro brothers were impressed. They're like, look at these niggas. Look at them. Like, it's one of the coolest shots. I'll probably use it as the thumbnail for that episode when we talk about it on the podcast. But it's definitely one of the coolest shots in Yu Yu Hakusho. That shit looked awesome. Because they didn't look panicked. Not even Kuwabara. They were both just dead ass serious. They were like, yo, is this it? For real? Like, I guess after going through May's castle, it is going to take a lot for them to feel threatened again. But, which they will. But, it was dope. And even with, like, the Demon Triad, like, they fucking did not struggle too hard with those niggas. I think they beat all 3 of the Demon Triad in 1 episode. They do. It's 1 episode. They beat the whole Demon Triad in 1 episode. It's like episode, obstacle, episode, obstacle, episode. That's how this arc goes along. But it's a fun arc. It's not like a super, super major arc. Like, the most major development is the introduction to Yukina and the introduction to our next main villains, the Toguro brothers. That's pretty much what this arc is for. Oh, and for Sakio. For Sakio, of course. But other than that, like, it's just fun. It's just fun to watch. So I'm going to have a good time talking about that. And if you're following along, if you haven't watched Yu Yu Hakusho before, which if you haven't, I don't know why you haven't, go ahead and go watch Yu Yu Hakusho. We will be doing episode 22 next week, so watch episode 22 so you can listen in without being too spoiled. But that is it for the retrospective. That one took longer than I thought, but I went off on some tangents, as I always do with the Yu Yu retrospectives. You know how I do. So to wrap things up for today, yeah. See, I don't know how much longer I'll be recording. We'll see when I'm done talking about this. I want to talk about what's going on with the world and whatnot. And a plane had to start as soon as I started resuming the record. Wow. So I wanted to talk about the whole situation going on. Pretty much. Ignore that. Wow. But as everyone knows, I don't think I need to really explain what happened with George Floyd. It's been all over the news. It's been all over the internet. Excuse me, I dropped my phone. Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, all that shit. Everyone should know what's going on by now. Everyone should know that there are protests going on right now. Everyone should know that riots have happened. Everyone should know that looting has happened. Everyone should know that all that stuff has happened. Blah, 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 blah. I don't want to harp on it too long just because there are plenty of people on the internet everywhere. Some with bigger voices than mine, some with smaller voices than mine, some with the same size voices as mine, that have gone over this over and over and over again. So I don't feel the need to go into detail about the whole situation and the statistics and all of that because it's been brought down enough. I shouldn't have to waste my energy telling you something that you should already know. And that may sound a little harsh, but that's kind of how I feel about it. Because It bothers me mainly that people continue to ask the same dumb questions that have already been given an answer. Not even like at the start of this situation, like years ago. Fucking years ago, we gave you answers to these questions. We've explained it to you. We've addressed our feelings. We've done this and that. So why should I have to continue to waste my breath on deaf ears? You know? It goes in one ear, out the other. You hear, you don't listen. All the other funny sayings about that. You get what I mean. And it bugs me because I know you get it. It's either like you don't get it and you never will get it, so that's why you're still asking. Or you do get it and then you choose to be ignorant or ignore it or not take it as seriously. And that's the thing that really bothers me. Because the problem doesn't seem to be you don't get it. The problem seems to be you don't want us to do anything. And that's what really bugs me. And I'm not trying to tiptoe around the situation, you know, the whole Black Lives Matter movement. First off, I shouldn't have to go over, again, I shouldn't have to waste my time going over why saying all lives matter to Black Lives Matter is fucking stupid. It's a fucking stupid thing to say. Don't fucking say it. Well, why? You already should fucking know. like I shouldn't have to break that down to you. It's not rocket science. But there's also the fact that I know good and well that a lot of you don't fucking care. Because you say, oh, well, maybe they should do peaceful protests. Oh, maybe you should do... We've been doing that. There's been peaceful protests by multiple people. By common folk. By celebrities. By YouTubers. By streamers. Over years. Not just recently. Again, I'm saying this. Over years. This has been happening. People have, like... Kaepernick kneeled. That wasn't fucking okay. People marching the streets. That fucking wasn't okay. People at award shows added in, you know, the whole sentiment of Black Lives Matter and protesting to their speeches at award shows and shit like that because they had their time and their platform to say something. That wasn't okay. LeBron wasn't okay with it. That wasn't okay for him to say because he's a basketball player. Like, there's been peaceful protests. And every time when it's brought up online, like maybe somebody says this, not even before this event, just on a normal day, somebody brings it up. Someone always has something to say to challenge them. So there has been peaceful protests going on, online and offline, constantly. By celebrities, by normal people, indoors, outdoors. Any internet source you can look at. It's always been going on, and someone always has something to say to question it, or to judge it, or to write it off as something that's not as important as we're making it out to be. And so when you say that now in this situation, violence isn't the answer, people, I do agree people shouldn't be looting. People shouldn't be rioting and breaking shit. But you have to understand that people have tried everything else. And I've talked about this with friends. I've talked about this with my mom. People have tried everything else. And don't act like we fucking haven't. Like, you can scroll back on people's timelines on Facebook. You can scroll back and find their old tweets. Since you're so good at finding old information to cancel people and incriminate people for certain shit they said 7 years ago, you can scroll back and find tweets and posts that people made about, you know, police brutality and Black Lives Matter from not even that long ago, from a couple of years ago, from maybe like a year or two ago. You can scroll back and find those when nothing like serious was being made in an outcry. This isn't like... I feel like people are treating it as an event at this point, like something to happen, like, oh, another black guy got killed, so they're going to riot again, oh, they're going to protest, they're going to get loud again, and then it'll go away in 2 months until it happens again. I feel like a lot of people see it that way, and that's fucked up. This isn't some special occasion where, like, oh, they're going to do this again. It's just like, this is a constant ongoing battle, and people have reached a boiling over point, especially because the way this one was, like, filmed. Not to say that shit like this hasn't been caught on camera. Of course it has. But the fact that everyone could clearly see this man begging for them to get the fuck up off of him. and they didn't for 9 minutes. And then they wanted to go and say in the initial autopsy that, oh, he had underlying health conditions and this heart disease and this and that. Oh, because he's black, it'll play off. Like, it wasn't because the knee was on his neck, it was because of the stress of him being caught by the police and all these underlying... Fuck that. That nigga couldn't breathe. And even if it was that, he's saying he can't breathe. So, I don't see how that changes anything. Like, that made no fucking sense to me. And, a lot of people have been on Facebook. I mainly gravitate around Facebook. Oh, Kyle still uses Facebook. Yeah, I do. What the fuck ever. That's where I sprouted Art Project. That's where it's going to stay for the time being. I'm trying to spread my horizons. Get over it. But, a lot of my friends that are in support of the whole movement are going through the whole thing of giving their speeches saying, like, yo, if you don't support me, or if you don't support this movement, unfriend me. Anybody that, asks a question or questions them or says something in retort against it gets blocked, deleted. And a lot of people are making fun of it. Like, oh, you can unfriend me, da-da-da-da. And see, that's a part of the problem. Because you mock shit like that, where people aren't being violent, where people are just stating their issues, and then somebody fucking is like, well, no, it's not like that. So why should they continue to argue with someone that's not going to listen? Of course they delete them and block them. But now we're being made fun of for that. Now we're being made fun of for marching the streets. Now, but then people start rioting and getting mad because they're not being heard. Like, oh, why are they rioting? Why? And again, this is shit that's been said a number of times. That's why I didn't want to go over it too much into detail, because I feel like I'm just going to be the broken record. Especially, someone with a small platform, a small level platform as me. But it's also the fact that damn, shit got real dark in my room or in the living room. It's also the fact that I want to go ahead and say that anyone can say anything, anyone can speak up, and everyone has. Everyone has. There's been a lot of people saying like, "Oh, this celebrity hasn't said anything yet." Or these people haven't said anything yet. Why haven't they used their platform to do this and that? And the way I feel about it is, yeah, why haven't they? Because they do have a bigger platform and a bigger voice. But maybe you should wait for them to say something first. Because people are going after J. Cole for not saying anything about the black movement. They're like, you say you're all for the black, and then that same thing with Kendrick. And then there's footage of Cole out in the protests. And I believe Kendrick is... They already said Kendrick was supposed to be making some new music coming out this year. So, for all we know, he could be in the studio writing something about this as we speak. But also, you shouldn't have to question them after all the contributions they've made and all the things they've said about the subject. To Pimp a Butterfly was about the whole black experience. Which is why I believe it's Kendrick's greatest album. That is going to go down as his greatest album. Like, Good Kid, Mad City, probably his most popular. His most breakout, but To Pimp a Butterfly that's his greatest album ever written. That's one of my favorite albums of all time, because he details the whole situation perfectly. And now you want to question him after he's already said this shit years ago. So it's so backwards to me. And you want to go and attack me, and also because my mom and I were talking about this too. Why should you have to wait for a celebrity to say anything? Why? For what? This person hasn't said anything yet. Okay, you say something. And the time it took you to make that tweet or make that post saying such and such or such and such hasn't spoke up yet, why haven't they spoken up? You could have spoken up. It doesn't matter how big or how small your platform is. Just say something. If the bigger people don't, then fuck them. They didn't say anything. Be over it. Move on. We have bigger issues. Like, don't harp over what's not there. It's not even like a situation, don't cry over spilled milk. Milk hasn't been spilled. They haven't said anything. They haven't done anything. So what are you complaining about? Let it go. Move on. If we want to talk about it after the fact, maybe we can talk about it after the fact, but we're not after that yet. We're still on this topic. And that's it all wraps around to that. And I don't know where I'm going with this. These are just all my thoughts, what I've been thinking about and talking about with other people. And I didn't want to make it the main topic for a whole podcast because First and foremost, I would be going on and on for hours about this shit. And I already do that about anime and nerd shit, so imagine how I feel about this, especially since this directly affects me, being, a black man. 26, I'm still young. All that shit going on outside. I shouldn't have to feel afraid to go outside. But I do. And I'm laughing it off because it does make me nervous and uncomfortable. And it's crazy that we even have to talk about it because it shouldn't happen. People are like, oh, but all lives matter. It's like, no shit. You're missing the point. I don't even give those people the energy. The last few days, I've just been posting, Black Lives Matter. I love being black. I'm a black man. I love being a black man. This and that. And if anyone says anything like, whatever, I don't even give them that energy. You don't even talk to them. If you want to block them and delete them and all that shit, go right ahead. Do not talk to them. Do not feed them that energy because they're going to use that against you. They're mocking us. I see it. They sit there and just mock people for defending what they believe in and what is correct, what is right, People make fun of us. People are making fun of those people protesting out on the streets. People are making fun of those people getting shot in the fucking face with rubber bullets. Like, that's not okay. Like, that's a joke to you? Like, and especially in the black anime groups, like, the internet is undefeated. And when it comes to groups on Facebook, especially, and like anime groups, especially black folk, we like to joke around, even in like the darkest of situations. And I'm all in for the dark humor. I've been laughing about certain stuff going on too. But some things shouldn't be joked about at present time. And in the moment, maybe after the fact you can look back and laugh on it and get some humor out of it. Because if you can't look back on something and make a joke out of it, what's the point? That's life. You can find comedy in everything. But we're in the middle of this right now, so we don't need that right now. And then you got these really ignorant people talking about, yeah, but for Black Lives Matter never supports like the Latino, when they've supported other movements. Yes, they have, but I'm not here to talk about that. I'm just, giving my thoughts, going on. And there's people who don't believe it's not that bad. It's just like, police brutality happens to everyone. And I believe it does. Of course it does. Police have a gross, disgusting abuse of power. A gross, high-level abuse of power. And I'm sure it does happen to everyone. But we're not talking about that right now. Not to say that it's not important for everyone, or not equally as important for everyone, but we're talking about a specific situation right now. So you got to understand, when you bring up something else along with that situation, you're making the main topic feel like it is less, or like it's less important. And boom, there you go. Right there, I just gave you the reason why All Lives Matter is a stupid movement. I shouldn't have to explain it. I just gave you an example. But I don't know, man. You guys, we got to be better than this, and we got to stick together through the whole situation. I see people in the anime groups going after each other in the comments because people won't even make like super high statements. Like, you think in a black anime group you could just say Black Lives Matter and leave it at that, and people will be like, yeah, Black Lives Matter. In a black anime group, a group where only black people are present, yet when you go in the comments, you have these hundreds upon hundreds of comments of people saying, shut the fuck up, you're being stupid. Shut the fuck up, all lives matter. Shut the fuck up, this and that. Shut the fuck up, what about black on black? And you know what I mean? It's like, why are you arguing amongst yourselves? Especially about situations and topics that we're not fucking talking about. I think that's the thing people need to get in their head, that this is about police brutality on black people. That is what we're talking about. We're not lessening the situations of other people. We're not saying they mean less. We're not saying any of that. We're not bringing them up. We're not saying that. So how are we hurting that? We're talking about our situation right now. And if you're not for it, then go ahead and say it and let yourself be known so I can know not to fucking associate with you anymore. Oh, I'm from me. Yeah, fuck you too, bro. Like, I know for a fact there's a lot of people that I've known in real life, both currently and back in the day at like school and stuff, that I've found out did not like me, like after the fact, that they didn't like me, like later, like I find out from someone else that that person doesn't like me. And the thing I find that hurts more is that why were you acting like my friend when you weren't going to be my friend? Or if you're not really my friend. And that shit is annoying. And not to say that I've never held in some shit I have to say to a person I disliked, but I never tried to make it seem like we were homies. I've had like coworkers in some older jobs back in the day that I did not like at fucking all, but I still was polite because we were at work and I'm just being a good person. I'm not going to cuss you out unless you really do something that's fucked up and over the top. I'm not really going to call you out a name. But I wasn't trying to fake like we were friends. I've had people try to fake like we were homies. Like we kick back, we talk, we hang out with other friends in groups and parties and shit like that. And I come to find out later, this person doesn't like me. Why the fuck were you even spending that time? Why were you wasting that effort and that energy? It's the same as this situation. If you really disagree with me and have something to say like that and think like, oh, maybe, you know, some of these black people had to come in, oh, maybe they shouldn't have done that. And then you need to say it to my face and then step. Because I don't need to find out later that's how you felt. Especially considering the fact that there are white people that have done far worse crimes. Far worse crimes. Gone into churches and shot people up. And then were taken into custody without harm. What the fuck? Meanwhile, someone just had a knee put on their neck for like 9 minutes for on the charge of like, oh, this might be a fake bill or a fake check or something like that, which it wasn't. You know, some shit like that. And that's crazy. And then you have like that white lady on camera saying like, I'm calling the police and telling them that an African American man is threatening me. That nigga was bird watching, bro. Who was he threatening? Who is he threatening? My mom showed me a video of that dude being like interviewed, talking about something about birds. It was like a video clip with him there. And it's like, yeah, he was a tall dude, looked like he was in shape, but he was just such a nice talking dude, had his glasses on. I'm like, he was bird watching. And you didn't have your dog on the fucking leash. And I'm glad they took that dog from you, because you clearly didn't fucking deserve it. But she was going to call the cops and say that she was being threatened by a black man. Specifically, an African-American man. I don't know why that was necessary. It's one thing... First of all, she shouldn't be calling the police on anybody regardless. Because he wasn't threatening you, regardless of his race. He was saying, look, your dog needs to be on a leash. Your dog's not on a leash. Like, you're supposed to have him out on a leash. There's another area where you can have your dog off leash, but you're not there. And then she was like, I'm going to call the police and say there's an African American. Like, what, bitch? Why was that necessary to say? Because you're going to use that to your advantage? And then look, it backfired. Now you out here looking stupid. And then you had, like, during the protest, there's that white lady in the wheelchair who got interviewed, and she looked all, like, beaten and defeated and sad. She was like, I was just peacefully protesting, and they were, you know, attacking and rioting on the Target building and this and that, and I was just telling them to stop, and they attacked me. But then you find out later, after the fact, on camera, this woman is still in the wheelchair with a knife trying to stab people, and they sprayed a fire extinguisher on her to get her the fuck out of the way. You threatened people, and she didn't even need that wheelchair. There's a video of her walking too, I believe. Allegedly. Or the white dude who got beaten up and his car got totaled. And me and my mom have been joking about this for like days now since I saw the video. Because he was like, I was attacked by 2 black African Americans. I was like, oh, so we're black African Americans. That makes complete sense. But he's like, I was attacked by 2 black African Americans. I was in my car and I was just peacefully protesting, saying all lives matter. In my car, just yelling from out the window. And they came and beat me up, these 2 black African Americans. Then there's a video of this old ass man out of his car with a bow and arrow screaming out "All Lives Matter" and pointing the bow and arrow at protesters. And then they jumped his ass. And the funniest part is, my mom and I were talking about this, the funniest part is, there were no black African Americans attacking him. None of that crowd was black. So we were just like, so you lied about peacefully protesting, and you lied about being attacked by black people. Okay, nigga. Like, that's cool. That's cool. And I believe there's another video showing him, like, approaching people or, like, threatening them, trying to intimidate them with a machete. I believe it's the same dude. It looked like he was in the same clothes, and it was the same car, so it might have been the same day. It's just later, when he came out with the bow and arrow, they beat his ass. As they should. And also, people gotta stop saying that the people looting and destroying shit are the same as the protesters. First of all, that's two different things. A protester and a looter are two different things. Also, there's several videos and photos showing that it's mainly people of other ethnicities looting the place, if not just as many other races looting the place. You know what I mean? Just like, so it's just, people are taking advantage of the situation, and it's also a mob mentality thing. You know, there could be plenty of people out there who just came out there to peacefully protest, and then maybe one person looted, so then in someone else's head they're like, oh, they looting, we should loot. And this person might not necessarily even be there for the protest. They're just taking advantage of the fact that they can loot, and then that leads to more people looting and rioting and destroying shit. So you have to understand that, yes, there are some protesters who turn to looting and rioting and breaking shit, but that's because they weren't being heard, and there's still peaceful protests where the police and the National Guard are still shooting people point blank with rubber bullets and throwing tear gas into crowds and pepper spraying people who aren't doing a damn thing, and the media. The black dude that works for CNN who was reporting, he got arrested even though they told them they were with CNN. But then there was another dude working not too far from there that was a white dude. They didn't harass him. There was the couple in the car, like a black couple, who got pulled out of their car, and they were like threatening to tase the girl, and I think they tased the dude because he wasn't trying to get out of his car. He was like, what the fuck am I getting out of my car for? And I think maybe they were like, it was past curfew or something, but they were clearly driving home. There's a row of cars, and the car in front of them, this is white people smiling, and they didn't stop that car. They stopped the car with the black people in it. There's a video of police officers dropping off bricks near a protesting site. What the fuck is this? Like, there's a lot of shit going on behind the scenes. And some people I know are going to write it off as a conspiracy theory. But I'm like, there can't be this many things being shared and photographed and filmed for you to say all of that is just fucking conspiracy and falsehoods. Some of that has to be real, if not most of it. You need to reevaluate yourself to think if you're thinking that all of this is fake. 100% bullshit. What was I talking about? You know, there's still, you have to understand, what I was going to say is, while there are still, you know, protesters out there who are rioting and looting, there definitely are. Like I said, there have to be some. You have to understand that this is the only way they feel heard at this point. You have to understand, some of these people might have walked peacefully. Some of these people might have done the hands up, don't shoot protest thing. A lot of people might have been there from the start of the whole Black Lives Matter movement. A lot of people might have written to Congress and said stuff. A lot of people might have been protesting for years and days. A lot of people might have been losing friends in arguments over these situations and still supporting Black Lives Matter and all this shit to this day. And they still have not been heard or respected, which is crazy. They're still being made fun of and seen as a joke. I've seen Facebook posts where if you go into the comments, I've seen these people, just several people in a row, not even just like one out of a group, several people in a row in the comments saying, these niggas need to calm down. Like, fuck these niggas wild, and I would just shoot those niggas. I've seen that shit. Like, you think we're kidding. Like, you think we're over-exaggerating. We're not fucking there's posts like that, several posts like that, where if you go into the comments and see multiple people just throwing out the N-word, like nigger, just like those niggas should die. They should just shoot those niggas. The police are doing the right thing. Get those niggers off the street. Oh, I was just peacefully protesting and I got ran over even though I was in the street. My dumbass was in the street. Roads get closed off for protest. And even if they are in the street protesting, why are you still fucking running them over? That's still not okay. Like, for you to try to justify this shit, like, because they're being violent, but the reason why they're mad is because they're not being heard for violence brought on them, but you're not addressing that, is some fucking bullshit. And that's why they're mad. That's why we're mad. That's why we're protesting. That's why they're rioting. That's why we're doing this. Because you keep turning it back on us. So it's like, well, fuck it. We're mad. We might as well do this. Because we're going to be called out a name anyway for doing some shit like this. Like I said, I don't condone rioting or looting. But I understand why they're doing... It's clear why they're doing it. Like, people are upset. And the reason why I wanted to do this at the end of the podcast is because I didn't know how much I was going to say or how long I was going to talk about it before I got over it and was done with it. And I also didn't want to make it the forefront of the podcast episode because I try to keep the podcast on topic with, you know, nerd content like gaming, anime, music, you know, manga, writing stuff, just the nerd community going around. But this does relate to the nerd community in a way, like I was talking about with the anime groups, people arguing with them, people saying that we're in the wrong, our own people calling their own people out for being in the wrong, but they're not in the wrong, and shit like that, and all of this. And it's important to me too, because like I said, while I do like to keep it on topic with the nerd shit I talk about, this is still my podcast at the end of the day. So if I have personal feelings towards something, you best believe I'm going to say something. But I also didn't want to make it seem like I'm trying to boost my podcast up, if that makes sense, by talking about a popular topic. I didn't want to seem like, oh, this little podcast is talking about shit just so, you know, he can get more clicks or something like that, or people will get more downloads. That's why it's not in the forefront of the episode. It's probably going to be in the description. I'm probably going to say I'm going to talk about this, you know, a little bit, definitely. But I'm not going to make it the headline or the title, because I don't want people to think that I'm trying to take advantage of a situation. I don't think they would think I am, because I am a black man. But that's how I feel about it, because you also got people calling out celebrities and popular people. Not to say I'm a celebrity or a popular person, but you got people, you know, calling people out saying like, oh, you're saying something just for, you know, like clout or something like that. And it's not about that. But I think that's as far as I'm going to say. I didn't really have like a clear final thing I was leading to saying that. This is just kind of off the top of my head, just thoughts I've had going around. As this continues, I'll probably bring it up a few more times over the course of the podcast, maybe some other videos and stuff and posts. I have been, you know, like I said, on Facebook and Twitter. I haven't been like talking about it directly, but I have been, you know, posting Black Lives Matter. I love being black and just shit like that. And one post I made, I don't remember off the top of my head. Let me see if I can find it. But there was one thing I said last night. It was after I saw, because last night I saw a lot of these posts. Like I said, were in the comments. They were like, yeah, fuck those niggas. Those niggas. Like, I was just like, what the fuck? And you really think we're lying about some shit like this? You really think we're joking about some shit like this? When blatantly you can find this online on Facebook. Just people calling us out a name and saying we deserve it. Or saying like, those niggas should get shot. Those niggas need to shut up. That's how all of them niggas act. Like, I was like, wow, okay, so that's how you really feel. I feel it. I see y'all. And, so I said, just saying, the fact that people all over are still attempting and performing peaceful protests, both online and offline, like while people continue to, sorry, let me restart that. Just saying, the fact that people all over are still attempting and performing peaceful protests, both online and offline, like people continue to tell them to do, and are still constantly clowned on, discredited, and ignored, speaks volumes. They tried. They've been tried. They're still trying. My people are trying. My people are exhausted, bro. You don't have to think the rioting and looting is cool, but don't act like you don't see why people feel the way they feel like they were pushed this far. People are not being taken seriously. They're being treated as less, and they feel frustrated and helpless. If you don't like what I'm saying, that's cool. Fuck you too. But say it to me straight up, because I've been over finding out niggas hating on me behind my back. Thank you. Love being black. Fuck racism. Black Lives Matter. Good night. And on that note, I'm going to end the podcast there. Yeah, about an hour and a half. So there we go. What are we talking about next week? Probably something a little more lighthearted to palate cleanse this stuff. We'll be on episode 49, so we're almost at that big episode 50. But if anything major happens about this, I will be talking about it. I will be bringing it up. So if you ain't vibing to that, don't listen, I guess. And in the future, if anything like this happens, and when shit like this continues to happen, and I feel like I want to say something about it, not that I feel like I have to, but if I feel like I want to, I'm going to say it, because that's how I feel. So if you're not vibing with that, and you're just like, man, I thought you was only going to talk about nerd shit, I'm not here for all of this and that, okay, bye. If you've listened to my older podcast episodes, like my earlier ones, you would know that I talk about a bunch of other shit, like personal topics too, and usually it relates to the nerd community still, but I do have strong personal opinions, regardless of if they're popular or unpopular or hot takes or whatever. So expect that if you're new. Next week, I don't know what I'm talking about. We'll get to that when we come to that. Maybe I'll watch a movie and recommend it. I don't know. But we will be doing the UU Retrospective for episode 22 as well. Hope you guys have a good Friday when this does go up. Have a good weekend, and I'll catch you next week. Black Lives Matter. Bye!
Boo this man!
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
O's man, 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 O's man. I pull up in that old jet, hold fast.